everyone. I am Bo Pratt. I'm going to be assisting the webinar here, just acting as a coordinator and asking some questions for all of you. In today's live workshop, we're going to be having two segments. The first, which all of you are probably here and excited for, is the Maya for Blender users, going over the intricacies of both programs and how you can move from one onto the other in a smooth and hopefully not too messy way, because I know those programs are similar, but different enough. So Myles Jackson is going to be hosting that, and we'll be jumping into that in just a second. But the second segment that we're going to be having here is once we finish the Maya for Blenders, that's going to be the first hour. We're going to have another half hour with the AM Student Success team here at AM, Tim and Mars, who will help you and answer any questions you have regarding the school and regarding any of the programs that we have. So hopefully you're all going to be able to jump in and join in. Feel free to ask as many questions as you want, and I'll pass it off to Myles. So Myles, feel free to take it away.
Hey guys, what's up? It's awesome to be here. My name, like I was already introduced, my name's Miles. And I was actually an alum from Animation Mentor. It was actually kind of my leap of faith into animation. So it's really awesome to be here. So at this point, I have over 6 years of experience animating in Maya and Blender. For Maya, I've worked in productions like the Ruby series and their crossover movies, Justice League X Ruby. And I've also worked on Blender for a few productions. For example, DC Heroes United, which was a cool little choose your own adventure game animation for the audience. And I also do some work for the YouTube series Detective Diaries by Crash Landing Studios. But anyway, enough about me. The title of the talk is Maya for Blender Animators. But my true goal of the session is to really break the barrier between the two programs so that all of you here today have the tools and the foundation to switch between programs as needed for your professional and your personal work. But, why learn Maya? Blender's starting to get a big foothold in the industry. I mean, we have award-winning productions nowadays like Flow made in Blender. And like I said, I've had to work on productions in Blender. I had to know it or I wouldn't have been hired. So, Blender is growing fast, but the truth is Maya still rules in large pipelines. It's the industry standard. So, most large studios you work for are gonna be using it or tools like it, think Pixar, DreamWorks, Sony. Um, so it's imperative that you really have an understanding of Maya. Otherwise, you might have a hard time getting those jobs. But that said, these days, I usually recommend my students get used to both workflows as the landscape is changing quickly, and who's to say what things are going to look like in 5 to 10 years. So, I'm sure many studios are going to stick to their guns and stick to what works in Maya, but other studios are adopting Blender. So at this point, it's really just expanding your tool belt and your knowledge to be prepared for whatever life is going to throw your way. So yeah, let's just hop right into the good stuff. Let me share my screen. And what I'll be doing here today is, well, whenever I'm learning a new software, I personally love to start with the bouncing ball. It's really simple. A lot of people don't want to do it, but it's really good at building your muscle memory and building good habits. So that's always where I start. Um, so, so I'll start in Blender and then I'll do a step and then I'll switch over to Maya and then I'll show you how I would do the step over there as well. So that all of you here today can, wherever you come from, if you already know Maya and you don't know Blender, you can hopefully do that. And if you know Blender and you don't know Maya, then, either way, you can learn something from this, hopefully. And I'll start with the very basics at the beginning here. And as it moves on, I'm going to talk about more and more complex topics. So hopefully those of you who have a little bit more of an understanding get some nice nuggets of knowledge towards the end there. All right, so that said, the first thing I'm going to talk about in Blender is the workspaces. And so basically in Blender at the top here, you have these tabs that you could switch between the different kind of stages of the pipeline. It basically organizes the window in in a way that the developers thought were appropriate for that step. So you can always click between these buttons on the top. I'm going to leave it in layout. In Blender, it's fun. You can also like go to the corner and just like pull out any kind of window you want. And you could also change any window to whatever other window. So if I wanted to click here in the top left and change this to a graph editor that we'll look at later, then I could. But for now, I'll just kind of grab that corner and pop it back into place. Whoops, I'll change this back to the 3D viewport. So now I'm going to kind of show you what you can do similarly in Maya as well. So in Maya, it's kind of different. The workspace kind of area is in the top right here. Here you can switch between those different stages of the pipeline if you need to get different pre-made windows. And a lot, oh, one more thing, you also have these shelves for different tools that you can use. We'll be using poly modeling, so I'll leave it there. And a lot of the windows, the way that you can change the windows is here in this panels tab. So here under panels, you can, for example, go to layouts, and I could put this into 2 panes side by side. And then if I wanted to, I could change this panel to whatever I want, like an outliner or something, if I wanted to do that, right? But I'm going to put it back to how it was. I'm going to go to this single view, tap that, and kind of put it back to how it was. So that's a little bit about workspaces if you want to like mess around with windows, change things around. Oh, one last thing in Maya, if you ever get to a workspace that you like love, you can always go to this workspace area and save the current workspace into whatever you want. And then you'll always have it exactly the way that you like it. So that's another thing that you can do. So that's enough about workspaces. So now let's talk about creating objects. I'm going to go ahead and hop right back into Blender. And first things first, let me delete this pesky cube. We're not going to use that. So creating objects. So as always, in all these 3D software, there's more than one way to do this stuff. So I'm going to talk about a few ways. So, if I wanted to make some ground plane in a ball, like I could go to object and then go to add, that is, go to add, then go to mesh, and then add a plane, right? Alternatively, if you're a hotkey person, you should be a hotkey person, you could do Shift A, and that will pop up the add menu, and I could add a sphere. So that's kind of adding in Blender. So we'll hop on over to Maya. And what I would do in Maya to do a similar thing, well, first of all, you could go to this poly modeling shelf that I showed earlier. You could click plane, and it will pop a plane into place. Alternatively, you could hold down spacebar, which will show the hotbox, and you can go to create and then sphere. And that hotbox is kind of just similar to going up to create polygon primitives and doing whatever you want there as well. So that's how I would pop those things into place. So now that we've created our objects, now we want to talk about manipulating them around. So in Blender, there's more than one way to do these things, so I'll talk about a couple. You could, in Blender, click the plane, for example. Let me open up my toolbar. Sometimes it's hidden on this side. And you could click the scale tool, and I'll grab this, and you could pull this out. And that's one way to do it. Another way is, like I said, using hotkeys. So I could grab this sphere and do G to move it around. If I wanted to lock it into a certain axis, I could press Z, and now it only goes up and down. If I wanted to scale it, I could do S to scale. And if I wanted to rotate, I could do R. And if I'm ever doing anything and I'm like, how do I get it back? I don't actually want to continue rotating this. I could right click and it will cancel that. So let me just get this on the ground. I am clicking this axis X to kind of flatten this out so I can get a really good view and get that ball on the floor. Cool. Yeah. So Blender, their hotkeys, they're good to know. They're based on, it feels like they're based on just like what they do, like G grabs, R rotates, S scales, and then with any of those things, you can lock it to the axis by, if I do grab, I can lock it to Z, the Z axis, which is up and down. And you can always see the axes here, up here. So GZ or GY or GX. And that's how I would do it in Blender. And those work with all the other tools as well. But let's hop on over to Maya, and let's do a similar thing. So in Maya, you could again go to your toolbar and let's move this sphere up so it's not blocking our plane. Or for our plane, we could scale with R and scale this up. It'll open our scale tool. We can translate with W. And we can rotate with E. And there's no way to like cancel it like in Blender, but if you do something you don't like, you just Control Z and pop it back into place. So in Maya, those hotkeys for transforms are W, E, and R. So Maya opts for just having the keys close together. You can't really sound it out. What am I looking for? R, rotate, can't do that here. It's just they're right next to each other, W, E, and R. So that's the approach Maya takes for moving objects around and manipulating them. So let's get this on the ground as well. They have a similar setup where you can click the front here and kind of get the view that you want. Okay, so I also want to talk about applying transforms in Blender or freezing objects in Maya, because it's good to get in the habit of that when you're starting animating. You're basically telling your program, like, this is where I want my object to start. So you don't have to do it, but it's kind of, some nice housekeeping that you do to make sure things work the way you want to later down the line. So in Blender, you could click the sphere, and let me go to my object properties here because this will show the transforms. You could also press N, and there's some transforms that show up here. There's this little arrow, just so you could see that. So you could go to Object, and then Apply, and then you could apply all transforms. So you could see that zeroes out everything, telling Blender this is where the ball starts. This is 0. This is the origin. Alternatively, for hotkeys, let me click this plane. You could see the scale is, we want it to be 1 all around. You could do Control A, and that's Control A for apply, and then all transforms, and then that zeroes that as well. So now our plane and our ball, this is their starting point. So over in Maya, how I would do this, it's actually called something different over here as well. Oh, my computer slowed down there. Okay, sorry about that. So, so what you could do in Maya is you can go to, blanking out here. Okay, so in Maya, you can go ahead and, for one, you could click the sphere and right click over here in the channel box, and you could go to freeze, and you could do all, and you could see that zeroes out everything. There's also another way that you can do this, modify freeze transformations, and then that will zero it out as well. So always more than one way to do this thing. So now both in Maya and in Blender, all of our stuff is 0, 0, 0. That's perfect. That's exactly what we like. We're almost ready to start animating. Because one more thing I wanted to talk about is pivot points. Right now in Maya, I would like this to like scale from the floor. I don't really want to scale from the middle. So to do that, I'll adjust a pivot point, but I want to show you in Blender first. It kind of already figured it out in Blender, but imagine it didn't do it right already in Blender. So how I would change a pivot point in Blender. So first of all, the Blender has a function that Maya doesn't have. It's this 3D cursor, which is nice. So you can use this for a lot of different things, but I'm just going to talk about how I can use it to switch up the pivot point. So let's see. What I'll do is I'll turn on snapping up here. And then I'll open this menu up to snap to vertexes, right? So now when I move this cursor around the sphere, it's snapping to all the little points. So what I'll do is I'll move this 3D cursor to the bottom of this ball, to the very bottom vertex. And now that that 3D cursor is there, I can use this to set the pivot point. So I can go to Object, Set Origin, and then, Object, Set Origin, and then Origin to 3D Cursor. So it didn't really change much, but if there was ever a situation where you're like, I want my object to move from here, that's what you would do. And also one cool thing that Blender does that Maya doesn't do is, like, if you already had a pivot point and you just want to temporarily pivot from somewhere else, I can move that 3D cursor to the top and then change the, where is it? Change this transform pivot point. Usually it's on bounding box, but if you change it to 3D cursor, you can transform your object from your 3D cursor. So for example, now that I've put my 3D cursor on the top, I can rotate around that 3D cursor instead of the pivot point I set. And then I could always go back to bounding box and it'll rotate from the original pivot point. So that's the really cool thing in Blender. But in Maya, how you would do it is you could see the pivot point in the center, the origin point, and you could press D or you could press insert and you could see it changes the way the gizmo looks. You could press, and that's just showing you that you're changing the pivot point. So then you could hold down V or go to the top here to this snap to point to get a similar vertex snap. And you could start moving this to the bottom as well. So let me just pop that all the way down and find the very bottom, boom. And then in Maya, you don't really have to do anything extra. You just click the button again. And now it is not scaling from the middle anymore. That's perfect for what we're doing, the bouncing ball. So that is pivot points and a little bit about the 3D cursor. So we're super close. Let's do a little bit more setup here. We're going to talk about the timeline. So let's go over to Blender. And you could see, I don't actually have the timeline open, but generally when you start, the timeline will be open. You could change this window to anything. The timeline is this little clock here. So here you could see my start frame is 1 and my end frame is 250. So that's way more than we need. So I can just, well, I can click and I could drag this. But if I want to be more precise, I could just type in 30. 30 frames is about all we need. If your cursor is in the timeline, you could use the mouse wheel to scroll in, and then you could do Shift, hold down Shift and middle mouse and drag to kind of frame this up the way that you want. So I'm going to do that, just this combination of scrolling my mouse wheel and Shift and middle mouse to get that. So I have my whole range right here. So cool, that's a little bit about the timeline. I mean, you could press play here. But other than that, that's all we'll be using for now. And then let's see the similar step in Maya. Let's do this. So in Maya, the timeline's down here. My timeline is 300 to 326 for some reason, but I could change that. Here's the start here. I could just enter 1. And then at the end here, I can enter 30. And then sometimes you have to adjust this little bar. So instead of like being able to freely move around in there, it's mainly this little bar. So you can extend that out. So it's 1 to 30. Okay. So now we have our objects set up. We have our timeline set up. We could finally talk a little bit about animation between the two programs. So if you've animated before, then you know we got to start with our keyframes, right? So what is our ball doing? It's starting high, hitting the ground, and then bouncing back up, right? So those are our keyframes, 3 keyframes. So what I'll do is I will grab our ball in Blender. I will do G, Z. There's more than one way to do it, but I'll do the hotkeys, G then Z, and I can pull this up to 10. Right? And then to set a key, it's I. And if you're using Blender 4.1, it should automatically key. If you're using an older version, you might get a little menu that you just have to click what you want to key. But anyways, in 4.1, that's been cleaned up. So now I could go to 15. And since we set our origin properly, we don't have to pull it back down. We have the ability to just do 0 to put it back to where we wanted it to start. So then we press I to key again, and it'll key all those. So we have the down, we have the up, then the down. And then I could pull it back up again, but one way I like to, since this is just, I want it to bounce up to the same place and make this a loop, I like to click the keyframe that I want to copy and then Shift D, and then I'm not clicking anything else. I can just move the mouse and move these keys to where I want them. And then left click to confirm, and then now I have the up and down. So over in Maya, how would we do this? So in Maya, actually, the key to the way you key is with S. So I'll pull this ball. Oh, looks like I am still on snapping. So I'll definitely turn off snapping if you click this button up here. So I'll turn that off. So now I can pull this ball up. I'll pull this to about 10 as well. I type in 10 over here in the channel box as well. And then I press S, that's the key. So you can see the key pop up there at the bottom. Now we can go to 15, and kind of similar to Blender, I could, since we set our origin, we could type in 0 and S to key. And then in Maya, the way that I like to copy keyframes is what you can do is, since we want it to go back to where it is at 1, you could click the middle mouse wheel, hold it down, and then kind of drag. It's like when you're first getting started, you're like, is this doing anything? But it is. And you drag it over here without letting go of the middle mouse wheel. And then you press S where you want it. Well, you let go of the middle mouse wheel once you have it where you want it. Then you press S. And then now you can see we have the up, then down, then up again. So that's how we can set up our keyframes in both Maya and Blender. So great. We have some animation, but I guess it's a little even, like a little bit too even, right? It doesn't really feel like a bouncing ball. Well, we know we need to add some more keyframes, but let's talk about a quick way to visualize this. An important feature in both programs, I think, is motion trails. So let's talk about that a little bit before we continue animating. So over in Blender, the way that we would check out motion trails on an object like this is you can, in your object properties tab, you can scroll down to motion paths. And then in this motion paths menu, you can click calculate and then OK. And you can see you get a little trail and you get a bunch of dots which represent the locations the ball is. But this is really messy and it could get really confusing. So what I like to do is change the paths type to a round frame. So now it's just like it's using this number here, 10 after and 10 before. It's just the frames, just 10 frames before it and 10 frames after. So I find this is easier to see. So you can kind of see, yeah, it's you can kind of visualize how even that is, and even how it starts to slow down as it hits the bottom. Doesn't feel like that's using gravity. So now we've visualized it. We can see that. So let's see what that looks like in Maya. So in Maya, it's a little bit different. We can click this ball, and actually to see what we're looking for, up here, there's this little tab here that for me started off in modeling. So you have to actually click this and then change it to animation. It changes the buttons on the top here to fit that step that you're in. So you can actually go to visualize, and here in visualize, you can create an editable motion trail. So when you do that, you get a line as well. Maya's a little bit different. It doesn't really seem to show you everything in between like Blender does right off the bat. But if you wanted to, you could set some more keys around here. and then you start to see a little bit more of what it is. And actually, one cool thing about Maya and its editable motion trail is that, like if I set a key here, and I'm like, okay, this is even like from 1 to 7. Like, I don't like this timing. I want 7 to be closer to the top, using your principles of ease in and ease out. I want this key closer to the top. You can actually, you don't have to grab the ball anymore. Wherever that ball is, it doesn't matter. And you can't do this in Blender. You can grab this key right here, there's this little dot, and you could pull this up to adjust your spacing just like that. And then when you play it, it just works, which is very cool. I like that about Maya. Um, and you can, there's some options to adjust this as well. Like if you click one of these keys over here in your channel box, you can like adjust things as well. I won't really, but you can adjust trail thickness and stuff like that. And show frames is what I'll do. So that's how you can see what number those are. Yeah, so that is the motion trails. So now we're going to continue to refine this animation just a bit, and try to add in some ease in and ease out and stop the ball from like slowing down at the end. So you could just continue to add keyframes to this if you wanted to, and change it that way. But right now I'm going to take the chance to show you the graph editor, which could be scary at first, but on a bouncing ball, this is the best place to see what it's all about. So let's first, for our Blender users, hop into Blender and take a look at it there, and then we'll see how it's different in Maya. So I'll open up the graph editor. I could change my timeline. In fact, I'll do that. So you can always open up a new window, like I said. You can drag from the corner and then pull another one down. But I'll just change our timeline to the graph editor here, and you can see all the stuff. So this, depending on what you're working on, like you could see all the keys and you could see all the curves. And I know in Maya, it doesn't really, it's not like that. So like, well, how do we make this so we see more of what like we're working with, right? So what I like to do real quick before we go any further with this is I go to Edit, and I go to Preferences, and then I go to Animation. And then you can, let me do this so you can see that at the same time I do it. So over here, there's an unselected opacity. So I like to turn this, wait, yeah. So generally this is like high at like 1 or something like that, right? So you can see every line. So I like to turn this down to like, whatever I want. You can see the line slowly disappearing. You can turn it to whatever you want. I like to turn it to around 2 or so, 0.2. And then another thing is there's this only show selected keyframes, right? So you could see every single keyframe on every single curve. But if you click this button, only show on selected curve, if I click Z, for example, now I only see and can only select those keyframes on the curve that I'm doing. So this is a lot more like Maya, where let's pop on over there, where if I open up the graph editor, and it's already here for me, but you could open up a graph editor by going to Windows, going to Animation Editors, and going to Graph Editor, and that will open up one. You could also always play around with panels as well. For example, if I wanted to split this to 2 panes side by side and make this a panel, a graph editor somewhere around here, surely. Close, reference editor, render editor. Oh, I guess it's not here. Well, anyway, you could do
It
that.
was grayed out. I think it's because you already have the graph editor
Oh,
open.
because I already
Maya's
have
being
it over
sneaky.
grayed out.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Thanks. So yeah, you could do it there as well. Um, but now that this is here, we can click our ball, and you can see, you might notice at this point that I'm clicking Y on this one for the up and down, and in Blender, I was clicking, whoops, I was clicking Z. So that's another thing you got to look out for. The axis orientation is different, but we won't talk too much about that. But just so we're aware, like you have to definitely get used to that. But you could see when you just click the Y translation, it just hides everything else. So that's on by default, and that's pretty cool. So let's use the graph editor to adjust this. So let's hop on back into Blender, and basically, oh, and another tool is I could do Shift H to hide everything else as well. And then it's Alt H to unhide everything. So I'll do Shift H in Blender just to really make that super clear. And my first step is I just want to eliminate this curve. Basically, if it's a straight line on this graph, you know it's picking up speed, or rather going at a constant rate, right? And that's more of what we want to see on a bouncing ball that's hitting the ground. So we'd want to click our keyframe and then grab these handles and adjust that. But I don't want one side to be slow and one side to be fast. So what we can do is right click on our key, and then we can go to handle type. And if we change this to free, now we can adjust this. So when we have this little V shape, that's pretty much exactly what we want. And so now, if we take a look at our bouncing ball animation, let me just see if I can hide that so we can see it clearly. You know, it's coming along, but at least it doesn't really feel like it is slowing down at the bottom, right? So we can adjust it that way. And if we wanted to feel like it was having more hang time, we could grab this key and pull it this way. So the more this is curved, the more hang time it's going to have. You could do it on this end as well. Just pull that out. And like as you pull it, you can see it in real time, that ball getting more and more, more physically real. We'll park it there for now, and then go to Maya and see how it's very similar. So in Maya, you do kind of something similar. We want to adjust this so it doesn't slow at the bottom, but same thing in Blender, we can't adjust both sides independently. In Maya, you want to right click, go to tangents. No, you just want to go to break tangents in this. It's less menus in Maya. So you just right click and then go to break tangents. And then now, and there's actually a visual indicator, if you could see it, but you can see it's dotted now when you grab it. But we can pull this and make this straighter, just like we did before. Grab these handles and make this straight. Grab this handle and make this straight. So you don't have to do this in the graph editor. You could frame by frame do this and look at your spacing with the motion trails. But this is also a way you can do that. And then I'll delete this, and we will break the tangent here as well. Or we have to actually in Maya make it non-weighted tangents to, or which one is it? Weighted tangents? We have to make it weighted tangents to make it do what Blender does by default. So if you right click this one, make it a weighted tangent, now we can adjust this. So we make it more curved at the top and more straight at the bottom. So it'll be faster at the bottom, slower at the top, right? So now when we take a look at this ball, let me click play. You see now that's not so even. So that's cool. Let's hide the motion trail as well, so we could see that clearer. We can click that, and then in our channel box, we can, there should be view here, right? Show, where is it? Interesting. You can always delete it as well. Oh no, there it is. Strange. Anyway, there's visibility. Don't know why I wasn't there before, but you could go ahead and turn that off. So, all right. There you go. So now let's play it. Yeah, so that, that's feeling much more like a ball. Before it felt like an an elevator, but now it looks more like a bouncing ball just from changing those tangents a bit. So So we could always do more, we put our principles of squash and stretch into this. But I just want to talk about real quick Playblasting because it is different between the two programs. So let's go over to Blender. And if we wanted to play blast, well, in Blender, it's always from a camera. So I can click this camera button and you can see my camera is in some random place. So, well, it's just the default place that it starts. So what you can do is on your in menu, what I like to do, you could always manipulate the camera like it's any other object, but I like to go to view and then lock camera to view here. So this will let me adjust this and frame it in a way that's appropriate for my animation. So I'll do that. I can actually unlock this to kind of zoom out so I could see more of what my camera sees, and then continue to adjust this so that it gets my animation all in there. Just frame that up just like it's any other view. So that looks fine to me. So I'll unlock that so I don't accidentally move it again. And in Blender, actually, first you want to mess with the options of how it's going to render and where it's going to render. So over here in your editor type, over here in the render output properties, that is, you can adjust your resolution. I'm going to leave that the same. But the most important thing on rendering this the way that you want is, first of all, your output. I won't play blast anything today, but you want to put it, you could go into this folder and put it, hopefully in a name folder somewhere where you won't lose it, not into this temp folder that it defaults to. That's where you're going to lose it. And then I think by default, this file format is in a PNG. So that's another thing. If you started to render and you didn't want a bunch of PNGs, that's how it's default going to do it. So you go to PNG and you turn it to MPEG video. And then not only that, you have to go over here to the container and make sure that this is an MPEG. And then that's how you get an MP4, like a proper MP4. Like you have to do all that stuff. So that's how you would do it. And then also, if you have audio, I'll just talk about it. You have to make sure that's on too, because otherwise it's going to render with no audio. So anyway, that's how you would render in Blender. So, well, that's how you set things up. So then once you're done with that, to Play Blast, you go to View, and then you would viewport render your animation, and it will pop that file into your folder the way that you set it up. So that's very necessary in Blender. So let's see how we would do it in Maya. So in Maya, really all you have to do is, well, first of all, I'm going to turn on my resolution gate, right? So I don't need to make a new camera in this case. So I won't, but well, I will turn on this resolution gate because otherwise it doesn't really show you an accurate representation of what the camera sees. So I got to turn that on, and then I got to frame this up. So a little bit less of a step than Blender. So there you go. Don't know why this is back on, but we'll turn it off like that. All right. So frame that up using the tools that I know. Boom, it's framed. There you go. So then to play blast it, I would just right click in the timeline, click this box. And in this case, we would do QuickTime format, MPEG 4. I'll do custom in this case to make it 1280 by 720, just leave it like that. And then here in movie file, you'd go to browse and put it where you want it. Otherwise, it's going to put it into some default folder that you might not find. So you make sure you put it in your named folder that you know exactly where it is. And then once you're done there, you click Play Blast, and then that will output your bouncing ball. So there you go. So at this point, you would have done your first, wherever you come from, Maya to Blender, Blender to Maya, you would have done your first animation and, gotten acclimated to the other software. And again, like, it's really important it's not really the idea that it's like, I'm going to go from Blender and Maya and shelve it. Like, no, like we're always building up our knowledge and we're building up our tool set so that we can do whatever is required of us. So Awesome. So I have a more advanced topics, but I wonder how much time we have left, actually.
We
Um,
have about 20 minutes, so if you'd rather go for questions, we could go over a few right now and then see if we have time for the advanced topic, or we could jump right in to
yeah.
the advanced topic if you'd like to cover it and you feel it would be super useful for people to know.
Um, Maybe let's start with the questions, and then yeah, we'll see for sure. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we do have quite a few questions. If anyone has some questions, feel free to keep posting them in the Q&A panel. So one of the first, which we were actually talking about uh, while we were prepping for this webinar, is does Maya and Blender have a way to switch the hotkeys? So instead of having all of these different hotkeys between two programs, can we switch to one universal set? And should we?
Okay, yeah, so that's a really great question. So yeah, there is a way to switch the hotkeys in both programs. And in Blender, actually, in preferences, you can go to inputs, I believe, or let me double check, but it's somewhere in here. You can change it to an industry standard. I'm just moving some of these menus around so we could find this. So in, yeah, key map. So you can, where is it around here? Industry standard. There is an industry standard somewhere. And while I find it, I'll just talk about why, like, I believe you probably shouldn't switch to industry standard, in my opinion. So it'll make like the navigation tools in Blender similar to every other tool to Maya and other industry standard software. But honestly, like I did that and it's like a good place to get started. But really, there's a lot of information on Blender that doesn't really translate to when you switch it to industry standards. So I recommend as soon as possible, you just get used to the Blender way of doing things so that when you're searching for knowledge and information, you can easily get that. And I'm just trying to find it. I haven't switched it in so long, but it is somewhere. Oh no. Um, right here at the top. It's just hidden from me up here. So there you go. So it starts off in Blender and then industry compatible. And so I believe that will make this like my, yeah, there we go. So now I'm using alts. Yeah, so that makes everything just like Maya. But yeah, I mean, start there if you want. If it's like, oh God, because I know for me, I was just always clicking the Maya keys and it just does some random stuff in Blender. So maybe you start there, but once you get more acclimated, like I do recommend doing the Blender way of things. And honestly, for me, you'll quickly find it's a really fun way to move around the program. So great question. Yeah, you totally can.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you there. I've been learning Blender as well, and it's been so much fun, especially as someone who's been using Maya for ages and ages. And the hotkeys are definitely weird at first, but learning the default, there's so many things in Blender that are unique to Blender that you would miss out on if you're trying to just mash the software, and vice versa with Maya. You're going to miss out on some of the key aspects that makes Maya so powerful with their default hotkeys. So totally agree with you there. Now we had a few questions here. You answered a little bit of this at the beginning, but for people who jumped in late, and just because it's a very common question here, when you're comparing Maya to Blender, they're very similar. Is there a reason why someone would want to pay for Maya versus just using Blender for free, or have to go through the steps of getting the student version of Maya? Why would we use one over the other? Why should we use both of these programs?
Yeah, that's also a good question. And yeah, we talked a little bit about it at the beginning. Um, Maya's the industry standard. Like it or love it, most big studios are using it. So if you're looking to learn animation to get into one of those bigger studios like Disney, Pixar, DreamWorks, they're using programs like Maya or similar to Maya built on top of Maya. So it's really good to know Maya, but also other companies are using Blender. So I just tell all of my students, you got to learn both. I mean, honestly. And that's why you would, just because you want to cast a wide net. be more knowledgeable, and be an asset to whoever needs you. Yeah.
Yeah, the Maya as the industry standard definitely shapes a lot of the tools that are built, not just within the animation sphere, but everything else. So being able to understand where that comes from is super helpful. But Blender is super powerful as well. So you're set with whichever program you choose. They are both fantastic programs.
Yeah, who knows? Like 10 years from now, who knows? It's going to be
Yeah.
interesting.
Well, Unreal is rising up from
Yeah, that
the
too.
shadows and coming in as a new awesome program to animate in. So
That
it's
too.
always good to learn more.
Yeah.
We've got some more questions here. Blender, one of the powerful aspects of it is that it has all these add-ons that you can download, add in, built into it, turn on and off. Is that something that Maya has the ability to do to install extra add-ons or extra tools that are not built into this core functionality?
Yeah, I mean, you can do add-ons. Like I will say, Blender does it really easily. Like you're meant to do it in Blender, and that's the cool thing. You could just, yeah, I mean, the person who asked the question, you could just pop them in. There's a add-ons tab, and you just pop it in. It's great. I mean, in Maya, there is a way to do add-ons, and usually when you go in and you find them, they have like instructions for you to do it, but it usually includes going into, the files and dropping things in where you need it. So you definitely can if you want to do that.
Yeah, and I believe in Maya it's plugins that they go by, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And in Maya, is there something similar to the NLA editor, the nonlinear animation editor that Blender has?
Ah, now that's the question. Yes. Yeah, there is. So, and actually it's I think I the it's anim layers in Maya, and I think it's better than the NLA editor, and way less confusing. So, let me just quickly show, like, so for example, it's just over here in our channel box. So we start in display, we hop over to anim, and then you can like click your sphere. And if I click this little layer here, it will make an anim layer. You can see we have the base animation. This is our bouncing ball. We'll lock that. And then you have an anim layer, right? So we have our ball bouncing, and like in this anim layer now highlighted, I could, like, I don't know, go to 9 and then move this over and then set a key. And now we'll moves it over. And I could also just also hide it, and it pops it back. So that's your nonlinear animation in Maya. And there's also more settings that I won't go over. But yeah, I mean, you could definitely look into anim layers, and I think it's way easier. So it's fun. It's fun in Maya for sure. Yeah, great question.
Animation layers are such an amazing tool. Once you start playing around with it and understanding them, they just open up so much in terms of speeding up your workflows.
Yes, use it. Use it.
Now, we have a few questions here. A few people asking, in terms of these programs, which one's better for animation? Which one is just like hands down better for animation? Is there one, or is it just different?
Yeah, why not both? I feel like,
I like that. I like that.
yeah, I feel like there's some strengths and weaknesses in terms of tools to me, in terms of understandability. Like for example, I feel like the Maya does the graph editor a little bit better off rip. I think Maya does animation layers a little bit better than the NLA editor. But I think Blender's hotkeys are awesome. So it's really a give and take on some programs, and it's at the end of the day, it's not really about the program, it's about your knowledge of the animation principles that you want to hone. So really, you'll get good products no matter what, as long as you put the time in.
Awesome. Now, there's another question here regarding the timeline. You were mentioning that in Blender, we can just zoom in, zoom out of the timeline. We have all of these fine controls, but in Maya, we're kind of stuck to this like section. A lot of people were wondering, in Maya, are you able to set keys outside of that timeline range, or do they get cut off and removed when you set the timeline to this one range? So, for example, in the situation you have here, would I be able to set a key on frame 0 or on frame 40?
Um, I mean, you could in the graph editor, you can kind of see it easier. So I'll open that up. I mean, if I get in the question right, like for example, if I had this at 50 and I set a key out here, S or whatever, I could just like shorten it back to 30 and those keys would still be there. They still exist and they're still affecting your animation. Um, you could go to -27 and set a key and set your timeline there. So, I mean, yeah, you could go wherever you want, adjust this wherever you want. Definitely one of those pitfalls that I ran into as a student is setting them outside of this timeline and being like, why is my animation doing something I never did? So yeah, you can set it outside and you do have to watch out for it. Yeah.
I remember falling into that same pitfall when I started learning animation. What's happening? Why?
Yes.
And then there's some questions here regarding 2D animation. I know that's a little bit outside of the realm of what we're talking about here, but is 2D animation possible on Maya and Blender? Is what does one handle that a little bit better?
Blender. Yeah,
Yes.
I don't know that there is a way really to do 2D animation in Maya, but in Blender, there's a whole tool set for it that you should totally look into if you want to do it. In fact, in one of the shorts I worked on, like you're able to, I wish I had time to talk about it, but like I had a character with no face and I was just like, well, I'm not going to model a face. I want to make some super expressive thing. So I was able to literally draw the face onto my 3D character. You could do 2D in Blender and you can mix 2D and 3D, and Blender is the place for that, I would say, for sure. Yeah, I wish I could talk about it more, but
The
but
2D tools in Blender are so cool. Like I said, I'm learning Blender and I'm just dipping my toes into it right now, and it's like the possibilities, so much fun.
yes, yes.
See, we have another question here regarding the gizmo. Is there anything similar to the power and the flexibility that the gizmo has in Blender? So in Maya, do we have something that can allow us to adjust things and manipulate objects that in the similar way that the gizmo gives us?
Uh, yeah. I mean, we're talking about this gizmo here, right? This thing
I
called
believe they might be talking about the dot,
oh, the 3D cursor.
the 3D cursor,
Oh
if
yeah,
I'm understanding
no.
the question correctly.
Yeah, if you were talking about this 3D cursor that I used to set the pivot point at the beginning, no, I can't think of anything in Maya that does it. That's why when I brought it up, I was like, the 3D cursor is something cool that Blender does that Maya doesn't do. So no, I can't think of anything off the top of my head that does it like that. No, it's a Blender thing.
I know you can get some functionality using like the pivot point, and there's a lot of different manipulator adjustments you can do in Maya. But to have that ease of use and just like click, move, done, hey, hey, let's go.
Yeah.
No, it nothing comes close to that ease of use there.
Yeah, in Maya, the only thing I could think of is, yeah, like I said, adjusting the pivot point with D or insert. And like in Maya, you can like if you double click the tool, you can like change the axis orientation that you're working with. And those are the things off the top of my head that I can think of for greater control on movement and stuff like that. Yeah.
We have some more questions here regarding constraints. Now, I know constraints are a whole topic. That's an hour on
Oh
itself,
yeah.
right there. But some people are wondering, does Maya offer similar constraints that Blender would have? And if you know one version, so if you know the Blender constraints, does that knowledge transfer over to Maya, or is that a whole new system that you would have to learn?
It's kind of like a situation where and great question, because it's different. So it's kind of a situation where if you understand constraints, like you'll kind of know how it works in between the programs, but the way that you do it is a lot different. So like in Blender, for example, constraints are where are they? They are literally a whole tab constraints that you can work with. And child of is the basic constraint where you can make one object be driven by another. And you would use that. And then you could target another object. And then, yeah, I won't go too far into it, but that's the child of constraint is the basic idea. But in Maya, it's a little bit different. You don't have like a child of constraint where you can do that. I mean, you can, I don't know, I would quickly do this. You could quickly like do this, and then where is constraint? There's a constraint tab here, and then there's parent, and you do that. Um, and it's different like that. And I feel like it's a lot more customizable in Blender as well. Um,
Oh, nice.
yeah, so these move together, or these move together. Anyway, yeah. So I hope
Awesome.
that helps. I don't have much time. I could talk about it more, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Constraints are like an hour and a half on their own for
Yeah,
one program.
yeah.
So I know you mentioned you wanted to go over some extra stuff. We only have about 5 more minutes. Do you want to cover that? Or if you feel like we don't have enough time to jump into those advanced topics, we can keep answering questions.
Um, well, honestly, you guys asked some awesome questions because some of the extra topics that I wanted to talk about was the NLA editor versus anim layers. And I also wanted to talk about like how you could change your transform orientations, like I kind of showed you in Maya. So I'll talk about one other topic that I had in mind that is interesting. So in Blender, I just wanted to show you one thing. So like by default, when you key something in Blender, let me change this back to the timeline. It keys everything, right? By default, and that could get a little bit messy, right? So I only moved the X locations, I mean the transformations that is, just the locations that is. But I have keys on like everything. And it's not too big on a bouncing ball, but you know, when you get into more complex things, it could get messy, right? So one thing that I don't know, not many people talk about, I feel like, is keying sets. So let me like delete everything just so we can clearly see this. So again, I click S and it keys everything. But there's actually this keying set in our timeline, keying. So if I click this and go to keying set, I could change this to location. So that's basically going to say it's only going to key location when I key. So let me delete everything and do it again. And now when I open this up, oh, it didn't work. All right, why? Let's see. Why did that not work? Key, maybe, let's see. Turn on auto key and only active keying set. Kind of acting funky. Let's see. Boom. This literally worked the last time I did it, so interesting. That didn't work. Why is that not working? That's embarrassing, but that's how you do it. Weird. I don't know. Interesting. All right. Well, I guess, I mean, that's what it does. So I don't know. There's something I've done wrong here that isn't working. Let's see. Okay. Well, I don't have time to figure it out, but you can look into keying sets and that'll allow it to not get really messed up. There's some setting here that I don't have set up and I can't figure it out, but you can change it to location or rotation. So it only affects the things that you want it to affect. And that same functionality isn't in Maya. The only thing similar in Maya that I could think of is, and it does the same thing in Maya. When you key, it keys everything. You could see that there's a key on everything. Um, but you could freeze everything you're not doing. So you could highlight in the channel box and to get a similar effect. Yeah, no, not freeze. It's not freeze in this. It's lock. Where is it? Right here. And now when I key it, it won't key these things. And then you could always right click and unlock it. I just wanted to call attention to that, the keying sets and the lack thereof in Maya, but how you can kind of do that as well. So you can look into that. But yeah, I think that's time then, right? So
Yeah, pretty much.
uh,
Those keying sets are awesome because that was actually something I was struggling with just yesterday, trying to figure out. I'm trying to key all of the controls on a character. It's like there are so many keys.
yeah. Yeah,
This
and
is
there's
gonna be
million more things
huge.
you could do with keying sets as well. So definitely look into it. Yeah, for
Oh
sure.
yeah, nice.
Yeah.
And for Maya, something that I learned actually fairly recently is if you hit Shift and then W, E, or R, that'll set a key on only the translation, rotation, and scale. So
Ah,
it's not quite as fancy and cool as the sets, but it does give you that power to just go keys, boom, translates only.
Yeah.
So, uh, not quite as cool, but it's there in some way at least.
I'll stop
Uh,
sharing.
and yeah, thank you so much for doing this. This was actually really amazing, at least just for me. I learned so much about the little cool details of Blender that I'm going to be using right after this. Actually, I'll be jumping in and just putting them into practice. And I hope this was interesting for everyone here. I hope whether you were coming from Blender, whether you're coming from Maya, you're able to pick something up and see that both programs have their strengths, they have their weaknesses, but they're also both really, really good. There is a reason why Maya is the industry standard. There's also a reason why everyone loves Blender because it's free, it's easy to use, it's easy to jump into. These are both really fantastic programs, and I would definitely recommend for everyone if you haven't tried one or the other, take a dip into it, jump in, especially with Blender. It's free. Download it, try it. But again, Miles, thank you so much for doing this. The back-to-back side-by-side comparison was fantastic. It really helped clarify a lot of these concepts and really show how, like I was saying, similar yet different both of these programs are. So really, thank you so much for doing that.
Yeah, I'm glad you and everyone got something out of it. And if anyone ever wants to contact me to ask me any questions about either software, you can always contact me via my social media, Instagram, LinkedIn. Just send me a message. I'm friendly. I don't bite.
Awesome. And those links to those should be in the chat, so everyone make sure to check that out in the chat there. So, uh, Miles, thank you again so much. It's been a pleasure. I hope we can do another one of these. I know there's a lot of questions we didn't get to, and a lot of people asking if there's going to be a continuation or a part two of this. So, I would definitely be up for this. I want to learn more about Blender.
Yeah, yeah, totally, totally. That'd be awesome. Awesome.
Cool.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
a pleasure. Now, for everyone here, we are going to part two of this webinar, this workshop, where we are going to have Mars and Tim, part of the student success team here at Animation Mentor, jump in and keep answering some questions. So if you're interested in Animation Mentor or have questions regarding the school or anything else we offer, feel free to ask those. And Mars, Tim, I'll let you take it away.
Hello, everyone. Jim,
Hey,
how you doing?
all right, how's it going?
What'd you think?
I thought it was awesome, and it's probably one of the more, more important topics that we get a lot of, questions about
Yeah,
all the
yeah,
time. So this would be really cool for those people that didn't actually catch the live, the live of this to
yeah.
send them that recording because it's going to help them a lot to make that
I
transition into Maya. That'll be cool.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I think that's this is going to be super helpful because, like you said, we get this question all the time, and we know tons of students that start off with Blender because the price is right.
Yeah.
All right. But yeah, it was just really great to see the side by side comparison, like Bo was saying. I think that's super useful to see that, and what are the differences? What are some of the things that Blender can do that Maya can't? For 2D, for example. That was really interesting to learn, and so much more, and how it's just really clear Maya is the industry standard. I know there's some pushback out there. There was a big film that was made on Blender, which is
Yeah.
really cool. But ultimately, if you want to get a job in the industry, it's good to know Maya. So that's
Yeah.
it's kind of
Yeah. And I
one
mean,
of
and if you already know Blender and you're trying to make that transition, I mean, knowing both, how's that going to hurt? Right.
yeah,
And so I think it's a good move for people that already, have some Blender experience, kind of keep that going. But
yeah,
then also, you know what, let me see if I can transition some of that stuff because animation's animation. Principles are principles, regardless
yeah,
of if they're using Maya or Blender or, like they talked about coming into the fray, Unreal, you know.
yeah. Right, right.
So
And
there's always something waiting around the corner. And that's pretty cool though about the 2D stuff
right.
that is part of Blender. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you the closest I'm ever going to get to learning both is just knowing Bo. That's it. That's as close to both as I get.
Yeah. That's just, it's about the same thing, you know?
I know Bo.
Yeah. So that works. So that's cool. I mean, and for people that are, thought that this was a really good, way to sort of start that whole process and journey and looking into diving into Maya, um, uh, this is a good start, but then kind of carrying that over into the Maya course is a great way to sort of tie it all together because, Miles is limited on how much time he had. He could have spent all day
Oh yeah,
talking
I'm
about,
sure.
all of the comparisons and side by sides and things like that. So if you thought that that was a great webinar and workshop and things like that, wait till you check out our 6-week course
Yeah.
in Maya. It's like
Mhm.
you're diving into deep waters there, but you're learning, the entire interface of the animation side of what Maya can do. You're
Yeah.
doing a tad bit of modeling in there, but for the most part, it's all animation. The stuff that he was doing in there, some of the
Just a
stuff
tad.
that they start off with in the Maya course, as a matter of fact, in week 2, with that the ball bounce and stuff like that,
Hmm.
kind of getting used to it and how to keyframe and things. So yeah, I think it's really a good way to sort of set the tone for everything to follow.
Awesome, awesome. Sam's got a good question here. Hey guys, how do I improve my skills with 3D? And also, was there practices that you guys did? How long, etc.? Great question. How do you improve your skills with 3D? You got to have a mentor. I think that's an important part about it.
Yeah.
You can learn quite a bit on your own. And I do talk to students that are self-taught, but you kind of plateau. You kind of get to a certain point there. And how do you break through that? It's really having the guidance of a mentor, somebody who's been through it before, somebody that can really show you the tips and tricks. And that's what we do here, right? We have amazing mentors that work here that teach, from major animation studios, and lots of our mentors that teach here are former students. I think Miles said he was
Yeah.
a former student as well, right? So, very cool. Yeah, great question, Sam. Hopefully that's helpful. But yeah, I mean, really, having the guidance of a mentor, signing up for a class, that's really, how you get your skills up to the next level for sure.
Yeah. And to be clear for people that are, jumping into this stuff for the first time and, learning the software is such a, just a, fraction of what you need. You need to learn how to apply those skills, right? And it starts in principles, right? And mastering those 12 principles. And so learning the software is all cool, but what do you do with it once you sort of figured out how it works and things like that? Having, classes like the ones that we offer here, 12 weeks at a time, and taking you through this tiered curriculum where the first 12 weeks we're going to teach you to master the principles of
Yeah.
animation, right? And then
Hmm.
carrying that into body mechanics. And so we take one piece at a time instead of just throwing it at you all at once. It's going to be hard for you to digest all of that stuff. So we give it to you one piece at a time so that way it gives you a chance to master that particular class and that craft, and then move into the next one and progressively get through it. So, whether you're going into character animation for, motion picture or, television style animation, stuff like that, or you dig games, right? If
Yeah.
you want to get in to be a, somebody that does cinematic cutscenes or, works on actual game animation, combat, stuff like that. The game animation program is a good track for you to go down, but it all starts with the stuff that Miles was talking about, right? The Maya stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I really, what I like that he said too was, learning the 12 principles of animation. Once you know the 12 principles of animation really well, it doesn't really matter which software you use, and
Yeah.
that's the thing too, is we're teaching using the Maya software here, but those principles can be applied to a Blender, they can be applied to 2D animation. Those 12 principles are the 12 principles. So
Yeah.
that was
Yep.
big takeaway there. Cool. What else? Guys have any questions? Let us know. You can
Yeah.
put that in the Q&A. We're checking out the chat as well. If you have any questions about how classes work here, we've got classes coming in about a month, actually, exactly a month
Yeah.
from today is the deadline to register for the next Maya animation course, the great course for beginners. If you're brand new to Maya, if you've never used Maya before, that's the class to start off with. And we do have a special promotion going on right now
About to
for
come
that.
up.
Yep. Waiting for the link.
Yep.
So your timing couldn't be better. We do have a special discount available on that class. Boom, there it is.
Yeah.
$200 off. So that's awesome. And that's US dollars. That's this happens every once in a while. We don't do these promos all the time. So it's good timing on your part. If you're here right now and you're checking this out, this is a great time to get enrolled. And you can see there free Maya student licenses as well. This is that question we get all the time, right? Tim, I mean, we talk to students and they're like, oh, I'd really like to do your classes, but I can't afford Maya. We hear that all the time. We're like, wait, Animation Mentor is an authorized Autodesk learning partner. And what does that
Yeah.
mean? We've got our very own license server. We can distribute educational licenses to our actively enrolled students for free. So that's a really, really great value. If you have, been to the Autodesk site, you probably might have been a little scared, maybe a little sticker shock. It is quite pricey.
It is scary.
It's
Looking at that.
it's a big
Yeah.
dollar. It's a big dollar amount. Most students I know can't, just pony up that kind of money. And I tell students Maya's professional level software, so it's priced professionally.
Yeah.
But good news is, we can provide those licenses for free. I see some things here. Body and Daniel Hernandez. Can you ask questions? Yeah, absolutely.
I
Ask
love
away.
questions out there. Cool. Is there source to practice animation after the workshop? Yeah, that's a great one. So for students that come through our school, whether they're taking 2D animation or the Maya course that we're currently talking about, or any of the courses that we offer, even after that course is over, you never lose access to the student campus. And
Right.
what that means is that you're able to go back to your original lesson plan for that specific class, look at all your, your coursework, your training tab, which is where all your assignments are sitting, watch your mentors e-critiques, go
Yep.
back through it, and actually access to the community. So if you're still working on stuff and you want to I'm going to post it and see what people think about it, post it on the student campus, and you'll be surprised how many people are going to drop in and give you some feedback on stuff. And so, yeah, that access is forever that you have after knocking out one of our courses.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm
What do we got?
wondering. Yeah, go ahead.
Now, Daniel says, if I have very good animation level, can I go and take the course ANO6 only? Great question. And what that's called, Daniel, is called advanced placement. So if you have a demo reel that, should be pretty good, right, to get to that point, because class 6 is, it's feature animation, acting, and polish. That's the pinnacle, right?
Right.
And so if you have a demo reel that does demonstrate that you have the skill set to get up to that point, you can do that. But what you do is you submit an application to the school. You write an essay on why you want to become an animator. That's very important to Mars and I. That's really what we look at when we decide if a student's getting accepted or not to our school, their essay. Why you want to become an animator. Then you also add in your demo reel, whatever it is, Vimeo, ArtStation, YouTube. Those are preferred, right? Then what we'll do is we'll send it over to one of our mentors. They'll review your demo reel. They'll go through it frame by frame. They'll slow it down. They'll zoom in. They'll do all the things, right, to make sure that it's at that level. And then they'll come back to us with a review and all the notes saying, okay, well, based upon what I see with Daniel's work, I think he would probably be best suited starting off in this class. And then Mars and I will reach out to you to talk to you about those review notes and go through those things with you and help you through this whole process. So there is a way to do it. There is a path, as we say. But ANO6 is no joke. So that's like, buckle up.
And it's funny, now that I'm seeing this question, Daniel and I have already been chatting on Facebook, Instagram inbox, and he was asking, that was the first question he asked. So Daniel, I remember we were chatting, and I can't remember if it was Facebook or Instagram, but that was the question he asked. He's like, I want to start with ANO6 and get the certification. I was like, well, you got to earn your way there. You got to,
and it's always not about the certification anyway, right? We talk
and
about that.
That's what I said. Yeah, I was like, it's really more than that. I mean, that's certainly a great academic achievement, something you should be proud of, and it's definitely going to be recognized. But you got to have that work to back that up. And like like you were saying, Tim, you got to either earn your way there, or we occasionally. I mean, how many times have you seen a demo reel come in where they were placed into the last class? It's not not very
I've got
often.
one that just happened, but she's already working in the industry.
Right, right. It's usually somebody that's already working in the
Yeah.
industry, I mean, to be placed there. So it's pretty rare that that happens. Not to say that it can't. And
Yeah.
we haven't seen your work yet, Daniel. So don't want to say anything. But it's we
Now
do.
I'm super curious. I can't wait to see his application come in.
Right.
We love looking at all the reels that come through. It's
I
pretty
know,
cool.
and we got a lot. I mean, what 50 to 100 a week or so
Yeah, man. It's
sometimes.
crazy. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Cool,
Jackson
cool.
Wirtz, do you
Yep.
guys do rigging? We do not do rigging.
Not at the moment.
Yeah, not at the moment, but things happen here very, very quickly. So if we see that it's something we get a lot of people asking about, it's not uncommon for us to go, you know what, let's look into doing this. And then poof, there it goes. What else you
Cool.
got?
What else?
Peep around here, what we got going on. All right. Yeah, I mean,
Got a quiet group today. I was kind of
Yeah.
surprised.
which is cool. I mean, we figured and we joked about it because we get so much stuff. There's this big controversy over the two, that
Right. Blender
we
versus Maya.
expected there to be some fireworks, going off in this particular workshop. But everybody's super cool because both softwares are awesome. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
So yeah.
Turns out Blender users and Maya users play together nicely.
Yeah, I thought there was just gonna be a huge fight.
Tim was going to have to break it up.
Yeah, I wasn't sure, Peaceful Friday.
Peaceful Friday. Sergio's asking about sculpting. We do teach 3D character modeling where you do some sculpting, and that's pretty amazing stuff as well. We do have courses on that too.
Yeah.
And you're going to be learning about two different software, Maya again coming in for sculpting, and then ZBrush as well for texturing and stuff like that. So
Yep. Very
check
cool.
out those
ZBrush is
courses.
Cool.
Yeah. And actually our modeling courses are taught by Hong Chan Lim, who's an incredible character artist, worked on Overwatch and Overwatch 2.
Yeah.
Very
brush
cool.
Good. Brush good. Sergio, brush good.
Nice.
I
Love
like
that
that.
brush. The brush.
Very cool. Good.
Cool.
Yeah, this is a quiet group.
It's a quiet group. Also want to let you guys know we are currently accepting applications for two different terms. So we generally have applications open quite early for some people. We're currently accepting applications, and you really only need to apply for our 12-week or 18-month programs, I should say, either the 3D character animation program or game animation program that Tim mentioned earlier. So you do need to apply for those and be accepted in order to register and enroll in the courses. And we're currently accepting applications for the summer term that begins June 30th. So it's nice and early, a good time to register for those courses. So get your application in. Actually, registration is not even open officially for some of those higher level courses. That's coming up in about 10 days. And then we're also accepting applications for our fall classes in late September. Hard to believe that, right? I'm thinking of fall. I'm like, wait, it's still cold here. But fall term as well. So yeah, those of you planning ahead, summer's a pretty popular term. I've been seeing lots of applications come in. I know some people are taking classes at other colleges or universities and they want to take some classes here during the summer. That's definitely possible as well. Cool. But just want to let you know we are accepting those applications. You should definitely head over to the website if you're thinking about applying.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, the mentor list for the summer term is crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some heavy hitters in there, and there's some, a lot of them that are in this particular list of folks that are teaching in animation basics this summer. They've been working in the film industry for quite a number of years, and they're also graduates from our school. And
that's cool.
And then they're here they are. They come back. Oh, look at that. Poof.
Look at that.
Behold.
I did it.
So if you guys have a chance to check that link out that Mars put up there, man, and check out their IMDb, see where they're working, check out their body of work. I mean, it's absolutely insane. You've seen all their stuff. If you're on this particular, live stream right now, chances are you've probably watched every single one of the movies that these folks have worked on or played their games, right?
Right.
So.
Totally. Yeah. Timothy, good name there's got a question. Do
Great
you
name.
teach environmental modeling and level design? Currently, no. Our specialty here is really 3D character animation. That's what most students come to here to learn and to train to become a 3D character animator. So not currently, although we do have a digital painting class, and that one could be used for some environmental background art, stuff like that. It's not quite environmental modeling, but might be something you're interested in. We basically have two different types of courses. We have our 6-week short courses and then our 12-week courses. I tell students those 6-week short courses are kind of like college electives. So a lot of different areas, really designed to give you some experience. And then our main programs, the 18-month programs, those ones are really designed to prepare you for work in the field. The animation field, that is.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Cool. Hey, Bo, welcome back.
Hello, hello.
Were you
Just
playing with
wanted
your
to
cat?
jump in. Oh yeah, she's crawling around now. I was hoping she'd come up on camera, but no, she's just
I
she
know
does
where he's
not want to be
jumping in.
picked up. But I did want to just jump in here because I saw someone mentioning hotkeys, and I did want to just give a quick answer to that. So someone was mentioning that they would just leave the hotkeys as is for both programs. That is a fantastic thing. Like Miles was saying at the beginning, definitely do that. But I also do want to encourage everyone to explore changing the hotkeys because once you're used to those default hotkeys and how everything works, from there you can find the hotkeys that work best for you and fit your work style. And that can be a huge boost in your animation speed or just your working speed. So something to look forward to in the future as you get used to how the program does work by default. And it is amazing what you can do. If you start playing with the hotkeys, something that takes 3 clicks normally over and over and over, hit one button, done, haha, move along. It's
Nice.
fantastic.
As a
And you
piano,
really got to pronounce that T. And
Yeah.
otherwise, I'm like, oh yeah, I've watched a couple hockey games this year.
See, it's the
Not many,
Canadian in
but all
me.
right.
I just have to go into the hockey.
Yeah,
This
and I was
is a
like, he's
hockey.
Canadian, so he's probably,
It's in my blood.
it's in his blood. He
it
can't
is. It is.
help it.
That and maple syrup.
Yeah, exactly. That is his blood.
That's funny. As a piano player, I'm wondering if hotkeys would make me play faster. If I had
Oh, could be.
If you could play a chord with one key, just
Right?
imagine.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that'd be
Yeah.
amazing.
I'm gonna try that with a steel piano and just scorch those keys and see what you got.
Scorch them. Sergio had a question about jobs. Wanted to address this one here. Does AM have any job placement program help for students on the 18-month? So the cool thing is, even if you just take a 6-week course with us, or if you're in the full 18-month program, either way, you're going to get access to that online student campus that Tim was talking about. And what's included there? All of those amazing resources, including career resources. So there's job boards there, there's templates, there's resume templates, cover letter templates, all kinds of different resources there. Those job boards are great too. So a lot of different career resources. But to answer your question plainly, we don't have a job placement program. We teach you, we give you all the tools that you need, to build a really great demo reel, to make really great connections into the industry. But it will be the graduate's responsibility to use what you've learned here, use that demo reel, and start applying for jobs.
Yep. Yeah, that job board is insane. As we always talk about, every time I look at it, they're not just like links to like Career Builder and all of these things. There's probably a few in there, but when I click on it, they're like direct like links to the studio and
Oh yeah,
stuff. I'm like,
right,
that's
right.
cool.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
so I thought that was pretty neat.
Yep. Cool. Well, any other questions?
Well, that was cool, Enrique. Thought it was a great class. Thanks for teaching me a few new things in Blender and Maya as well. Gotta go. See you. See
We'll
ya. Thanks for hanging.
We'll see you,
That's
Enrique.
cool. Glad you enjoyed it.
Cool. I think we might be done, Bo.
Yeah, I think if we have no more questions, we'll let all of you go. Thank you all so much for. Oh, wait, is there a question? Oh, there is a question. One
wait,
last
what?
question,
What?
and then we can call it.
It's like a Ratatouille movie. Anyone can study the courses. A good animator can come from any place. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. I mean, we are an online animation school. In case you didn't know, this is a big year for us. We've been around since 2005. It's our
Crazy.
20-year anniversary last month. And we've been in online school since then, since 2005. We really know how to do online education. We've been doing it for a long time, and students can attend from anywhere. And so, yeah, absolutely.
That is very true. At this point, I've been from
Myles Jackson.
students
It's not where you go,
to
it's what you know.
yes.
Right.
Miles Stu's commenting up there.
So let's see here. I think with that, we can probably call it here. Thank you all so much for attending. Thank you all so much for all of your questions. Definitely let us know if you want to see more of these. I'm definitely wanting to see more Blender stuff. It'll help me learn more. So thank you all. Thank you, Mars and Tim, for taking the time to do this. Thank you again, Miles, for creating such an awesome demo and a side-by-side comparison, which was fantastic. Be sure to check out his socials. Be sure to check out all of AM's socials if you haven't already. And we'll see you for the next one. So
It's always
take
good
care,
to see you
everyone.
geek out, Bo. I love it.
I love geeking about animation. It's amazing. I love it. Cool. Take care, everyone.
Bye, guys.
See you next time.